Hi, my name is John Wenzel. I know what you're thinking. What is this guy doing with three baseballs in his hand? And that's a very good question. My goal tonight is to try to familiarize you with the art of juggling. Not only the art of juggling itself, learning how to do it, but also the history behind it and the health benefits that come from it. Also a little bit about my personal background and how I got into juggling. So let's start. I have to admit, when I first started this project, I really didn't know a lot about the history of juggling. I had to go out and research as much as I could to try to find out all the details that were involved with juggling. In my head I thought, it was probably a jester, juggling for a king to be the funny guy, somewhere in the medieval period. I was wrong. They actually found hieroglyphics of women juggling in the tomb of an Egyptian prince. And according to John Strickland of HowStuffWorks.com, archaeologists believe the tomb was built between 1781 and 1994 BC. That's 4,000 years ago. I mean, that's a lot further back than I ever thought it would be. Because of the hieroglyphics and other artwork that they found up until the medieval period, it appeared that women were the ones who most likely juggled more often than men. They would do it to entertain themselves, their children, their family, their friends. But it was also found that some warriors would actually go into battle, approach the enemy, and juggle to try to show them that they had the dexterity and skill to scare them off. From what I've read, some were successful, some were not. Some were not intimidated by juggling, believe it or not. In addition to the historical background, there are some health benefits involved. Juggling has shown that if you are able to do your hand-eye coordination and do it often, you can actually exercise your brain, which is great for people as they start to get older. It could help to lessen the chance of Alzheimer's. It could strengthen your brain enough so your mental capacity lasts a little longer than it normally would have. It's also great for stress relief. I have 3 stress balls at work. I constantly juggle them around when it starts to get a little stressful. You focus a little more when you're juggling, so you're not thinking about the problems that are showing up at work, at home, wherever. So that's a good thing. I've talked a little bit about the historical background. Now I want to talk about my personal background. Like anyone else, when I was younger, in the late 70s, when I was probably about 15, rainy day in the summer, got bored. One of my 3 brothers, my brother Dan, who's 5 years younger than me, we talked about what should we do? What should we try to learn to do? And somehow juggling came up. Being cocky little kids, we figured, 15 minutes will be done. We'll do it for 15 minutes, we'll master it, we'll go on to something else. We were wrong, very wrong. As you know, there was no internet back then. We weren't researching it at all. We just figured, okay, 3 balls, just throw them up and catch them. It took a lot longer, but we worked on it almost 24 hours a day for 3 days straight before we actually were able to do it. I would do it, my brother would watch. We'd critique each other to try to get the way to do it the best. What's missing? How is the timing off? After about 3 or 4 days, we actually were able to do it solo by ourselves, and then we started to add something into it. We decided, hey, why don't we do tandem? Wouldn't that be great? Let's go ahead and have us face each other, juggle, and then have the timing perfect where we could just toss a ball to each other's opposite hand at the same time and continue juggling. And we actually were able to do it. So I guess if you try hard and you practice a lot, it can be done. Now we're going to get into the fun part. Now we're actually going to get the balls flying through the air. The first thing you want to do when you're juggling, especially in a situation like this, make sure you have extra balls around, because even if you think you're going to do it well, balls can bounce off each other. So the first thing you really want to do is you want to select the size ball or object, the size and weight ball and object that you're going to use for juggling. For me, it's always been baseballs. It's comfortable. I played a lot of baseball, so it's just comfortable in the hand. And what you want to do is you want to just toss it up, get used to the weight, get used to the height that you're throwing it up, and try to use both hands, because you're going to have to be proficient in both. Maybe not as proficient with your weak hand, but you want to try to be almost as proficient. So once you get your object, you're just going to toss it up. That's it. Just toss it up and catch it. So you're working on release and you're working on catching. Do it with both hands. And once you do that, once you get used to that, I mean, you could do this for an hour, you could do it for a day. It's just something to get used to, tossing it up and catching it. That's all you're doing. And as you can tell, I'm getting a little distracted because I'm focusing so much on the ball and a little less on on speaking. Next, you want to go to two ball. Now with two balls, there's two different ways you can do it. One thing I do, even with the stress balls at work, is I like to put two balls in one hand, and I'll juggle two balls with one hand, not using the other hand at all. So for this, you have to toss up, and as the other ball is coming down, kind of loop your hand around so you can get up with the second one. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to actually toss it, toss it, toss it, toss it, toss it, toss it, just to get used to one ball coming, one ball going, all the time. Now the hard part now is when you add and introduce that third ball. The key here is two balls in one hand, one in the other. What you need to do is start off by releasing one of the two balls into the air, and right about at its peak you're going to start to throw the second one, or the single one from your other hand, up in the air while you're getting ready to catch that first ball that's coming down. At the same time you're thinking, okay, now the second ball's in the air, I got to get rid of this third one. It takes a little time to get used to the motion. That's why I say if you start off with the one, then start to work on the two ball. Makes it a little easier when you go to the third. Doesn't mean I'm not going to drop these, that's why I got the extras, but I'm going to do this and try to do it for a couple of seconds for you. I'll do it again. As you can see, if you don't pay attention a lot, they start to drift, so you really have to pay attention. If you're outside, you can throw it a lot higher. I didn't drop any, so that's a good thing. So what I'd like to say now is, to recap what you've seen and what you've heard tonight, I just want to let you know that, not only is it a fun thing to do, it's a fun thing to learn. It's very entertaining. People look at you like, oh my God, you're so masterful or something, and all you're doing is throwing three balls in the air. Because they haven't done it yet, they think it's something really special, and it's juggling. Once you get to do it, you do it. It's not that bad. But there are the other benefits. There are the health benefits. It really keeps you focused. It can help exercise your brain, your motor skills, your dexterity. Everything can get a lot better. And I feel like if I'm going to continue doing this, I might do it on a daily basis now. This is kind of bringing me back to my childhood a little bit more. But if I start to do this every day, I feel almost like I'll be able to, stay a little more limber, keep very focused, and still have fun while I do it. Thank you.